The next drop-down is cloning, and with the root set to as guides, if we render, you can see each individual hair here. So what cloning is going to allow us to do is take each one of these individual hairs and create an exact copy of it. The settings under the cloning drop-down are going to allow you to control how those clones are created. The first option is clone, and this is going to allow you to set the number of clones of each one of your hairs. So if we render, you'll see the effect of having 0 clones. If we say set this to 5 and render again, you'll see that we now have a little dense cluster of hairs. The reason we're getting a cluster of hairs is because of the root and tip values. So what exactly do these two parameters do? Well, if we take a look at some of the roots here, let's say this one right here, what the root and tip values are telling us is that the root of one of the clones can be within a 0.197 inch radius of the root of our actual guide. And the tip is the same thing. So if we go to the root setting and type in 0, you'll see that the roots of all of the clones now converge to the root of the guide. If we go to the tip and type in 0, you'll see that we get the same thing. So now all of our clones are overlapping exactly. If we adjust the root out to 0.1, you'll see that we get a little bit of separation there, and then we can adjust the tip out a little bit more. And this allows us to get something that looks almost like bristles on a toothbrush. And we can go ahead and render that just to see the effect that we're getting. We then have a scale parameter, and this is going to allow us to set the scale of the clones in relation to the actual guide. So in this case, the original hair is going to render taller than all of the clones. The next option that you have is variation, and this allows you to add some randomness to the scale of each one of these cloned hairs. And if I render that, you can see what that looks like here. Finally, you have a spline graph here, and this is going to allow you to control the offset of the clones along the length of the hair. So going from left to right, you're going to have from root to tip. And the results are going to be pretty apparent right away. If we drag the first knot on the spline down to the bottom, you'll see that all of the roots of our clones get brought in towards the main root that we have of our hair. If we go to the tip, we can bring that in, and that brings all of the clones in line with our original hair. You can also click in the middle of this to add a new knot to your spline graph, and you'll see if we add one to the middle, we can get some pretty interesting effects here with our hairs. The final option that we have here is set roots, and this is one that you'll want to use in the case where you may be deforming your mesh and the cloned hairs are not properly following that. And that's because the cloned hairs come into the scene unrooted, so they're not necessarily attached to the object other than whatever you see in the link and directly to where the hair is attached. So set roots, if you do run into these sorts of problems where the clones are not following correctly, you want to click on this checkbox so that the cloned hairs become rooted to the surface properly.